Hello and welcome to the Joint Venture Insider Show. I'm your host, Michael Whitehouse. Yes, we are starting 7 minutes earlier for those of you who are paying attention. I was at JVX this past week, followed by Reach, so my planning of things has been somewhat disrupted, but things actually worked out very nicely because I was coming into the week and I'm like, okay, I don't have an interview scheduled, and what am I going to do? But I was going to be interviewing Rob Goyette of Laser Coaching. You may have heard of him. He's one of the more prominent coaches in the industry. He's got to interview him for my other podcast. And as we're going through the interview, I'm listening. He's talking a lot about joint ventures and things that have worked in joint ventures. And I'm like, I bet the Joint Venture Insider Show folks would be interested in this. So you're going to get a little bonus. It's going to be a little longer than usual because the format of the other show is a bit longer. But I think it's going to be well worth it. Rob has a lot of joint venture knowledge and a lot to share with you. So I'm going to quickly go through a couple of quick announcements, and then we're going to get right on to the interview. So a couple things that are coming up. So if you went to JVX, then you know how awesome it was. If you missed JVX, you're probably hearing about it from people who are there, talking about seeing the people, and the community, and the vibe, and the energy, and all that. So there's not another JVX until next year, but there is Collaborate. Collaborate is the virtual JVX experience. So that is from the 9th to 11th of December. And there's a link in the show notes to get your tickets for that. It's quite affordable. And it is as close to JVX experience as you can get without leaving your house. So if you're hearing great things about JVX, go to Collaborate. If you went to JVX and loved it and you want more, go to Collaborate. It's everything of that same energy, but from the comfort of your own home. So definitely check that out. You're going to want to be there. Also, I, myself, Michael Whitehouse, am launching a project that you may find interesting. It's the Entrepreneur Mentor Community. One of the big challenges in entrepreneurship is who do you find a community? Now, of course, if you're in JVIC, there's a great community there, a great support community. But what I wanted to build was a place where people could find all the experts they need, all the services and whatnot. So I created the Entrepreneur Mentor Community. The concept there is that I have handpicked people from my network who I trust with my community, people who will teach you things, people who do services, marketing services, mindset, coaching, all kinds of programs. They're there in the community to provide guidance. And then as you get to know them, you may say, I like you. I like what you do. I like your energy. I think I want to join your program, perhaps. So if that's of interest to you, then I encourage you to go to the link in the notes there, guyknowsaguy.com/EMC for Entrepreneur Mentor Community. And from there, you can access. So there's a free Facebook group called the Entrepreneur Resource Community. No cost, just a Facebook group. You should totally join it. The Entrepreneur Mentor Community is only $47. And if you go to that page, you can get access to one of the weekly Ask Me Anything calls to connect with me directly if you haven't, and also to learn more about it if you have any questions about it, or just sign up. It's $47 a month, no commitment. So sign up, try it out, sense the vibe, see what's going on, be one of the first members to be part of it, which is really great because I've got, at this point, something like 27, 28 mentors signed up. I expect to have a few dozen more signing up soon. So the first few members, there's going to be more mentors than members. So it's going to be a really great environment there. So that's what I've got going on. And enough about me. You want to hear from Rob because Rob is smarter than I am. He's been doing this a bit longer. So let's get on to learning all that Rob Goyette has to teach us.
And now,
hello and welcome once again to the Guy Who Knows a Guy podcast. I am your host, Michael Whitehouse, the Guy Who Knows a Guy, and our guest I'm very excited to have on today is Rob Goyette. Many of you have probably heard the name. He has been serving coaches and leaders in the coaching industry since 2007, and he is best known for his fast revenue laser coaching model, which shows coaches how to quickly add coaching revenue into their bank accounts in as little as 4 days. Rob lives with his wife and 2 sons in Puerto Rico. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Thanks, Michael. It's great to be here.
Awesome. So, when I asked you ahead of time how networking has benefited your life, you have quite a list of things, including JV partners and all the usual business stuff, and also meeting your wife through networking.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. So, I was speaking at an internet marketing conference in Chicago. She's from Germany, but she had flown to Chicago for this event, and we connected there. no real sparks were flying romantically, but we got along really well. And then the more we got to know each other, we realized logically we'd be a great couple. And so then the emotion
Nice. Well, that sounds like a great joint venture
followed after that.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a great joint venture.
Yeah, but I mean, it's who you know. Like I was a speaker at this event because I knew someone who knew the guy running it. My wife came to the event because she knew someone and trusted someone who promoted going to the event. So yeah, I mean, connections are so important.
Fantastic. And so we were also talking before we started about how you've used joint ventures and how you built your business using joint ventures and networks. So share a little bit about some of the things that have worked well for you.
Yeah. So real quick, my history is back in 2007, I joined Christian Michelson's team, and a lot of coaches will know who that is. He's a pretty big name in the industry. He and I were actually friends before he made it big. So, it was a great connection. He and I, we were able to collaborate on a lot of things. And when things started going well for him, he told me about his business, and I asked, could I join your team? And so I was actually on Christian Michelson's team for 7 years. And during those 7 years, I was oftentimes his JV manager and really got to know a lot of his partners and build relationships with them. So in 2014, when I went out on my own, I felt really fortunate to already have a lot of great joint venture contacts. But I sure learned a lot during those 7 years on his team about really working well with joint venture partners, and I've used those same skills to build my own business.
Nice. And so for someone who's getting into that space, what are some of the tips you'd have to get started with joint ventures and how to get the best results and not embarrass yourself?
Sure. So, I mean, one question a lot of people have, a lot of coaches have, is I don't even know who my best joint venture partners would be. Who are they? Where are they? And so, one strategy I've come up with, which is I'm pretty excited about, and it requires just the tiniest bit of technical knowledge. I hope that doesn't cause people to tune out, but not a lot. But if you create a new profile on your computer, just like you might let a family member log into your computer, but create a new profile, create that profile as your ideal client. So if my ideal client is Michael Whitehouse, I might create a profile on my computer called Michael Whitehouse. Then log into that computer and create an email address. If you feel okay doing it, create a Facebook account, create a LinkedIn account, actually create this ideal customer, and then go online and start looking for help. Do Google searches, subscribe to podcasts, join Facebook groups, and notice the kinds of offers that come across your email or your newsfeed or recommended podcasts, and consume those. And anytime someone's offering something free, get on their email list. And anytime those people are promoting someone, get on those email lists. And what you'll notice is the people whose email lists you're getting on, they have figured out how to get in front of your ideal customer. And so pay real close attention to who those people are and keep paying attention to who they promote. But you're doing all this on a separate profile on your computer, so it doesn't muddy up your real life, your real business. And so that can be a really effective way to figure out who knows how to get in front of your ideal audience so that you can partner with them to do that. Does that make sense?
That is brilliant. I love that. Yeah. So basically you're leveraging these very expensive advanced algorithms to do your work for you.
Yeah.
That's what Facebook and Google and TikTok and all them are doing that to figure out. So you just pretend to be that person and then let them target you. And then whoever's targeting you is the people who know how to target that audience. And then you partner with them.
Yeah. And if they have an email list, you're subscribing, getting on their email list. At the very least, what they might be able to do is send out a few emails for you to that list and get you in front of your ideal audience.
Okay. Which then brings the next thing. So you've identified this person that they're effectively targeting your audience. How do you get them to send out those emails for you to their list?
Yeah. So there are two directions we could go with this. Let me answer your question directly, and then I'll give I'll give another idea. So to answer your question directly, a lot of people think, well, I have to have a big email list to get someone with a big email list to promote me. And that's absolutely not true. It helps. And if you have a big email list, it's super easy to do that. Hey, Michael, I'll email my list of 22,000 coaches if you email your list of 22,000 coaches. And so, so I mean, that's often an easy joint venture to get into, but we all start out with a list of 0.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew my business very quickly through joint ventures. Maybe I had a little bit of an edge because I had some contacts in the industry, but some of the joint ventures I did weren't related to that. And so if you can figure out what is most important to a joint venture partner and give that to them, it might not be a reciprocal mailing. So for instance, there was a guy that I met, and he had a list of 10,000 coaches among others. And this was when my list was maybe 300, like very small relative list. He had 10,000, I had 300. But he and I were talking about something kind of unrelated. We were talking about Google AdWords, and that was a skill set I had. And I said, well, I could give you, I think it was 4 hours of Google AdWords consulting. And instead of paying me some high dollar figure, you could send out an email or two to your list. And that was so easy for him to say yes to, because that's easier than cash. So, I mean, that's one way. Another way can be out of friendship. If you network with joint venture partners, if they like you, if you built a good relationship with them, they'll often do it out of friendship, I've found. But another way is you can throw cash at them. And that might not be your first thing to do, but I threw $3,000 at Mark Mahwini, who owns a huge Facebook group called the Coaching Jungle. And Mark, he didn't require any reciprocal mailing, but with that $3,000, he then interviewed me on his podcast, shared me in his Facebook group, and right afterward or during the promotion, we made $7,000. So it was instantly profitable. So, I wouldn't use that as a first strategy, but if you know how well your marketing is working and know the size of the audience and how congruent they are, if someone has the same audience as you, that's the best. If their audience is a little different, your results may be a lot different. So finding someone with an ideal congruent audience is really important. But Mark had that audience. And so I offered him money, but you could go to the owner of a LinkedIn group and you could say, instead of just throwing money at them, say, dear owner of this LinkedIn group, it looks like you put together quite an impressive collection of this particular niche, whatever your niche is. And I'd love for you to share my webinar with them or my free report or interview me for them. What would make it irresistible for you to say yes to my request? And you can ask them what they want. One time, a partner of mine, she asked me, Rob, what would it take for you to promote me? And I said, well, the thing that's most important to me right now is finding an internship for my older son. And I said, I don't know if you don't have to pay him, but I'm looking for him to get some experience. And if you'd consider that, I will bend over backwards to promote you. And she did. She hired him for a year. She didn't have to pay him anything, but that's what I wanted for him, was to get that experience. And now I still bend over backwards for her anytime she needs something, because she's the one who did something way more important to me than their reciprocal mailings or whatever. And by the way, she's one of my number one JV partners. She's very successful and got a big list and all that. But when she wanted me to promote her, she said, what would make this irresistible? So if we really connect with our partners, we can ask them. I could say, Michael, what I'd really like for you to do is have me on your podcast, but I want to make it an easy yes for you. What would make it irresistible? And you might say, well, Rob, you need to show up and bring good content, but I also want you to tell your list about it. And I want you to do this and whatever it is. So, if we ask people, what would it take? They'll tell us.
No, and there's a few great things you said there. One is the idea of figure out what's valuable for them, and ask them, because people, people want what they want. That's a tautology, but and so the best way to get what you want is to say it. But yeah, it's awkward if you're like, hey, would you promote me? They're probably not going to come out and be like, actually, yeah, could you give my son an internship?
Right.
But if they say, what would it take? Yeah, what would you like? And not the car salesman, like, what would it take to make this deal happen today? But what would make this easy for you? What would you really like in exchange for it is powerful. And then also about the right fit, because I think one thing I see with a lot of newbie people in the JV space is they're trying to just exchange, but they're not necessarily good fit. And something I'm seeing, we're talking about this beforehand, that I'm promoting a launch that you're promoting, and my little 1,200 person email list is up into 8th or 9th place, because it's such a close alignment, because I do networking and she does networking for referrals to make money. So I'm more networking to grow your connection. She's more networking to grow your bank account. So very aligned audiences. If you want one, you probably want the other. Yes. And I assume that's why I'm getting that kind of engagement, because it's a really good market fit. And it's honestly a course I was thinking of making myself. And she said, "Why would you make that? I've already got one. Promote mine."
Yeah.
I was like, that makes sense. Let's promote your proven one. So when you have that kind of partner, even if you have a 1,000-person, 1,200-person list, you can run with the big dogs, because you've got that market fit.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, what causes anyone to say yes to us, whether it's a JV partner or someone hiring us, is the combination of trust and an irresistible offer. They need to trust us as a person, meaning we're honest, and they need to trust us as the expert who can get them the results that they want. So the JV partner needs to trust you can actually get them what they want. You can get them an internship for their son, or you can get them X number of leads or sales. But and with clients, you can get them the results they're hiring you for. So if trust exists on those two levels, in you as a person and you as an expert, then the irresistible offer also has two components. One is that people need to understand the offer. This is a part I've missed for years, but they need to understand the inputs and outputs. What's the time, energy, and money they're going to put into our offer, and what's the very likely outcome they're going to get. So that guy that promoted me for the 4 hours of Google AdWords consulting, he understood what's the time, energy, and money he's going to put into this. Not much. He's just going to mail his list for me. And so I made that irresistible to him. And then the outcome was getting up and running on Google AdWords. So there's that part of the irresistible offer, understanding the inputs and outputs. The other part is that it needs to be a no-brainer in terms of value versus the cost or the ask. And so like that partner that I promoted, the value of giving my son an internship is bigger than I could measure. It was so important to me. And the relative cost was mailing my list a few times. I feel like I still owe her. So if we can have a large contrast between the value versus what we're asking people to spend or do for us, when those two things are in place, the trust and the irresistible offer, people will say yes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've definitely seen a lot of programs where I'll watch their ask, their pitch, their offer, however you want to call it. And by the end, I'm like, okay, I know what it costs and I know what it delivers, but I don't know what I know how much money it takes, but I don't know what it costs.
Exactly. What's the time, energy, and money I'm putting into this thing? Yeah.
Yeah. And I've definitely had programs I said no to because I'm like, okay, I can afford it financially, but is this 1 hour a week? Is it 5 hours a week? Is it 20 hours a week? I can't tell what's in the box. It's this black box solution that you can't really tell what it is.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's part of the irresistible offer. And this is how I troubleshoot all my marketing and how I create effective campaigns is I say, how can I maximize trust in those two areas? And how can I make my offer irresistible in those two areas, that they understand it and that it's a no-brainer, value versus cost.
Fascinating. And speaking of what you do, I do want to talk briefly about the fast revenue laser coaching concept.
Sure.
For those not familiar with it, and I'm partly familiar with it, I bet I'm not as familiar with it as I think. So tell us a little about what laser coaching is and what makes it unique from all other things.
Yeah, so it came out of that question of what could I come up with that would have trust and an irresistible offer, but essentially I was trying to figure out how to get more clients. I was charging, I think, $2,000 a month at the time for my coaching, and occasionally people would hire me, but not a lot of people were hiring me. And I just thought, what would make it even more irresistible? And I thought, well, what if they could get unlimited coaching with me, not just a couple hours a week or whatever it was, but what if it was unlimited? And then I thought, well, I mean, that's great to give for them, but I don't know if I can do that. But maybe instead of an hour or two on the phone, what if it was 15 minutes? Because I had noticed that a lot of these conversations, we would kind of run out of things to talk about. They would hire me for maybe 2 hours a week for X number of months. We'd have our call, and we'd really, the meat of the call would happen in 15 minutes. And so there's a lot of how you doing, what else should we talk about, that kind of thing. So I thought, well, what about unlimited 15 calls? If my audience can actually believe that we can get this done in 15 minutes, and I need to explain that to them in the offer. But if they really believe that, and I gave them unlimited 15 calls or unlimited 15-minute calls, what would that look like? And then I thought, well, it looked like my calendar would probably be really full with a lot of little calls. And so so I came up with a homework rule, thinking, okay, well, this would be one way to sort of regulate it. Is people, after their call, they need to do some homework that we agree on before they schedule their next call. And what surprised me, I enrolled over 50 one-on-one clients who paid for a year in advance for this unlimited coaching. But what surprised me is the average client had somewhere between 7 and 8 calls. Some had 20, some had 1, but on average, it was 7 to 8 calls. And I thought that was really interesting. And then I started doing the math because I was selling it for $997 for a year. And I was working out to earning about $500 an hour for my time. And I thought, that's not bad. And so then I also later discovered that these laser coaching clients, once we built enough trust with our coaching together, they were open to higher end offers. At the time, I was selling these VIP weekends. And what made it even more irresistible is I said, hey, Michael, why don't we take the $997 you've spent with me on the laser coaching and apply it to this $10,000 VIP weekend? That way, it's like you got the laser coaching for free. And because that helped them save face, that they weren't using the laser coaching as much as they thought, kind of like joining a gym in January and not working out in October. So it turned out to be a very effective way to build trust with clients and give them an entry point to start working with you, build that trust, and then upsell them into a higher end offer.
Interesting. And I think one of the powerful things I hear there too is the accountability that I did a low cost group coaching program, which I've since folded into my entrepreneur mentor community, and it was low cost because it was basically come and pick my brain. It wasn't coaching so much as just, you need answers, you need introductions, you need, who should I hire for this, or how do I get on TikTok, just these little questions. But I very clearly said, like, for the originally $25 a month, like for $25 a month, you don't get accountability, you get answers. Accountability costs a lot more. But that's what you're providing with the laser coaching, is homework creates accountability. So
in a way, and in a way not. So what's interesting is I know now ahead of time that the average client will have only 7 or 8 calls. I'm not kicking their butt to have more calls. So in some ways, the accountability is on them to do their homework and to schedule their next call. But in some ways, the accountability, I'm helping them by giving them homework and encouraging them to do it. So it's weird, but some coaches say, I don't think I like this model. If I already know ahead of time that people are only going to have 7 or 8 calls, I feel guilty, like I'm taking advantage of them. And what I share with them is, what you can do is say that the reason that the price is so low for this unlimited program is, I know most people will only have 7 or 8 calls. The accountability is on you to do your homework and show up. And if you want to have 52 calls with me or 100 calls with me, as long as you do your homework before you schedule your next call, you truly can have as many as you want. But the reason it's priced so low is the accountability is on you to actually do the work and make your next call. Now, if you'd like more accountability, I have a higher end program where we will actually meet for a structured, once a week or 3 times a month commitment, and I will kick your butt if you don't show up or if you don't have your stuff done. But that costs more money. And so it can be a great way to sort of feel really good about offering something where people aren't going to use it as much as they think they are, like a gym membership. But be transparent and authentic and say, that's the reason the price is so low.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense too. And but also by having the homework, you give them, like, I've been a member of gyms, and the usual thing happened, and now I have a personal trainer. My personal trainer gives me a set of exercises to do, and so I've done it so far every single day for, I think, 2 months I've been doing it, because I have a set of things to do, not just like, oh, I should go to the gym and like do something on something at the gym. I know what to do. And so I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, that once you have the homework, you're like, all right, I've got a thing to do. So, okay, I need to move my business forward. What was that homework Rob gave me? Oh, the homework was write my mission statement. Okay, I'm going to write my mission statement because now I'm feeling stuck. The homework must get me unstuck. Let me do the homework and then call Rob for another piece of homework.
Yeah, and I use that exact metaphor of the gym membership and the personal trainer. I use that on my webinar. So yeah, bravo. That's exactly right. The gym membership, the accountability is on you to work out and show up and work out. But a personal trainer is going to kick your butt. If you don't show up for a workout, you're going to hear from that person. So yeah, it's a great metaphor.
Great. Yeah. So I'm glad we're on, because I haven't seen the webinar. So We're on the same wavelength. Excellent.
Yay.
So, and it's it's great to share this concept. So this is a concept that you teach coaches to build their own program with, or is this your Rob only program, or?
Yeah. So, well, once I got it working in my world, I thought, oh, maybe it'll work for other coaches. So I just casually shared it with a few peers, and they all got really good results. They basically copied my emails and sent them out to their list, and they all did quite well with it also. And so it occurred to me that if it works for my peers, it'll work for coaches. So I put together a training and recorded that training, and over time it's evolved into a full-fledged online course with lots of bonuses. So now I teach other coaches how to offer this laser coaching, and and it's been really successful. And I see a lot of coaches out in the space using the laser coaching model, and it makes me smile.
Okay, yeah, which is how I first heard your name. Is I was at an event last year, and the person running the event said we're going to do some laser coaching sessions. Which a lot of events would call hot seats, but they called it a laser coaching session, and your name was on it, and I'm like, oh. And so here we are a year later on a podcast. I'm like, I've heard of this guy.
Yeah, that's great.
So you've branded effectively, which is always a good thing.
Absolutely. Michael, I just this may or may not be the right point in the conversation, but I mentioned back when we were talking about JVs, I mentioned we could go two directions, and there was one other thing I wanted to share. We can hop back there now, or at least before we're finished talking.
Yeah, no, let's hop back there now.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think this really might help people who want to do joint ventures and don't have much of a list. And, we talked about other ways for joint venture partners to say yes to us, but a really cool strategy is to host a giveaway. Now, you could do a summit also, but those are a lot of work. A giveaway is not much work at all. It's like 3 web pages and links.
Yeah.
But if you host a giveaway, my strategy that I recommend is to reach out to 50 of your ideal JV partners, and hopefully you know who they are if you try that computer profile trick, or maybe you know who they are anyway. But reach out to about 50 of them with a goal of having 10 of them say yes. And the exact way to ask them is, would you be willing to contribute a gift to my giveaway and tell your audience about it? So don't say, would you be willing to promote my giveaway? Because that causes them to back off a little bit. But if it's, hey, and then tell your audience about it. So if you can find 10 people who are willing to provide a gift for your giveaway and tell their audience about it, and you all have congruent audiences, that's so important. The theme needs to be congruent, the audience is congruent. But if you have 10 people and they all have, let's say, a list of 10,000, and they're sending that list to your front door to get these gifts in your giveaway, all the people who come in are going to get on your email list, and then they can go choose from those 10 partners. You don't even have to have a gift to give away. You can just run the thing. You don't. So some people think they have to have a gift. You can, but the point is that you'll build your list from all those people coming through the front door of your giveaway. After the giveaway, you can then reach out not to just those 10 partners, but to all 50 people saying, hey, now I have a list. Could we get on a call and see if there's some ways we can support each other? So that might be a good strategy for people that don't have much of a list, but would like to grow it quickly.
Yep. And a giveaway fundamentally is what, an opt-in page, a gift page, some swipe copy. That's
yeah. I mentioned 3 web pages. You hit 2 of them, the opt-in page and the gift page, and then the it's over page or waiting list page. So yeah, basically there's the front door, and then there's the giveaway page. And then the it's over. You could also have a thank you page in there if it's not live yet. But yeah, so very simple. And then it's a lot of emails, and links. You ask the partner for a link to their free gift, which that builds their list. That's what's in it for them. And maybe a description, maybe a picture. So it's really, you're spending most of your energy on one web page that lists those gifts. You got an opt-in page on the front. That's your front door. You've got a list of the gifts. That's the deliverable. And then some sort of page when the thing is over that people can see.
That is really super simple. I
Yeah.
I have been thinking of giveaways as being a little more complicated. Would you still have affiliate links so you can track who sent what?
Yeah, I mean, you can make it more complex if you wish.
But you wouldn't necessarily need to.
Unless there's a strong reason to track and you want to have a contest, or you want to say, hey, did this partner mail for me or not? I mean, you can. When I've done giveaways, I do affiliate links because I'm real comfortable with all that stuff. But it's not necessary because your end goal is to, number one, build your list, but number two, more importantly, network with your ideal JV partners.
Okay. And so it's more about building the relationship than building the list. So it doesn't really matter if they send you 10 or 100 or 1,000 opt-ins.
Yeah,
It matters
and
that they're
exactly. And a simple thing you could do is get on each of their lists before they start promoting, and just tell them you want to get the emails, because some of them might wait 30 days before mailing people on their list. So you might get on their list the day before your giveaway and you don't get the email, but you're actually on their list. So yeah, so just let them know, hey, I'd love to see how you promote this thing. So I'm getting on your list. Would you please make sure I'm included? So that way you can tell that they're mailing.
I love it. That's a great tip there. And so stepping back to more general networking, for someone who's, again, maybe newer to networking, or maybe they've been around for a while and they did not. I find a lot of people think they know what networking is, and then you actually get into it and they describe their networking experience. You're like, that's not networking. So for someone who's not effectively networking, what is your best piece of advice for someone on how to build their network, use their network, be a great networker?
Yeah. So, I could take your question a couple different ways. But I mean,
we can go all three ways, whatever you want.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I don't know if you're referring to the question you sent me ahead of time about what's your best networking tip. Is that kind of where we are in the conversation?
We can go that way. Yes.
Okay. So my best networking tip when talking with JV partners and trying to get referrals to other JV partners. Like, Michael, if you and I were JV partners and we were having a call, and maybe we had a great call, and toward the end of the call, I'm like, hey, Michael, who else should I be talking with? I mean, you're great and you probably know people. I believe that's the wrong thing to ask. I think instead, if we've got enough rapport, I can say, hey, Michael, maybe we can do a little bit of networking or referrals to each other for other partners. Who are your best partners? So when asking who should I be talking to, that's really tough for people to come up with a good answer. But when you say, who are your best partners, they either know that off the top of their head or they can pull up a list. So when I'm having a really high rapport call with a JV partner, I'll say, hey, and maybe we should make some introductions to other partners. Why don't you take a look at who your best partners are, and I'll pull mine up, and we'll just see if we already know everybody or if we can make some introductions. And it's super easy to do. And by asking them who their best people are, it's kind of like that earlier thing where you create your own computer profile and see who shows up in your email. You're asking them who actually gets you results. And so that can be a great way to ask for referrals to other JV partners by asking who are your best partners.
I love it. And the first step is ask in any way. I think the first piece of advice there, because I think a lot of people don't think to ask their successful partners who else they should talk to. But then I love that concept of make it, and it goes back to what you were saying before. Make it easy, make it irresistible, because it's so easy. Like, hey, I know you've got a list. Why don't you look at your list? I'll look at my list, and let's work. Let's compare and see what matches.
It makes it so easy. And usually, like, we stop after like 5 names each. But sometimes we keep going. It's like, well, do you know this person, this person, this person? But usually it's give and take, right? So like, I try not to ask for 10 names and only give 2. So I also, I don't want to be making too many introductions to my partners all the time. So I try to keep it around 5.
That makes sense. Yeah. And I definitely found that I used to, I joke that I started networking out of a sense of imposter syndrome. So I had nothing to offer but introductions. So I made a lot of introductions, and I'd make 7, 8, 9, 10 introductions, and then discover that people couldn't handle 10 introductions. You send them 10 intros, they respond to 2 of them, and then they're like, whoa, too much homework.
Yeah, that's a real good point.
Yeah. I had someone once send me 100.
Holy cow.
And he has an assistant do it, and it was automated, and they set it up wrong. So they all came in at the exact same moment, 8 a.m.
Oh, no.
100 emails threaded together. So I wasn't even able to, like, Gmail couldn't open the email. It was such a long thread. Half of them I never even engaged with, because it was just, like, technically so much to deal with and to dig out.
There's a solution to that for next time it happens, is you can go into the settings and turn off the group conversation or whatever they call it, and then you'll see each one as a separate email, just for the future.
That's true. Yeah, that's an interesting concept. But yeah, it was just so much. But that's what I found, is I'm spending all this time sending out all these individual emails, 10 introductions, and I realized, I could probably send you 3 introductions. You'd be just as grateful.
Yeah.
But less overwhelmed.
Exactly. It's the 80-20 rule. It's who are your best partners. If you send me those 3, they're probably going to be 70 or 80% of the results anyway.
Nice. And you said you had some other networking tips beyond just the JV networking?
Well, yeah, I don't remember what I was thinking when I implied that, but I mean, one really good tip when you're on a video call like we are right now. I don't know if everyone's watching us on video, but we're on video right now recording this. And I found is like to maximize rapport, it can really help to make eye contact by looking into your web camera. I've trained myself to do this. Most of this conversation, Michael, I've not been looking at you. I've been looking into my web camera.
Yep.
But when you glance at me, it sure looks like I'm looking right into your eyes.
Yep.
And so even though like as coaches, sometimes we really want to be present with the client and we want to look at them, but that actually breaks rapport when we're not looking into our web cameras. And so one thing that can really help rapport with clients and JV partners and other people is to sort of train ourselves to look them in the eye. Now, if you're using your phone, that might happen anyway, just because the phones are so small. But at least for me, my web camera is on top of my monitor, and I've trained myself to do that. Also, nonverbal feedback. I try not to step on the words of other people on the calls. Like we've all had this where we're both talking over each other and one has to say, you go first. No, you go first. But by giving nonverbal feedback, like a couple of thumbs up or kind of a shaky hand, like maybe I agree, or if you have a question, maybe raising one finger, or if you slightly disagree, somewhat of a thumbs down. By giving nonverbal active feedback, people know you're listening to them, but you're not trampling on their words. And maybe if you're raising that index finger, they know you want to say something, but they'll stop when they're ready and then turn it over to you. So I found that to be really useful is building rapport that way. Once you have rapport, then you can find out what's most important to them. When I was on Christian Michelson's team, we kind of had a little schedule of an agenda of what we'd cover on each JV call. And one of the first things that he asked partners was, what are you working on right now? And if I could sell $1 million of it, what would that be? And so he got them thinking big, like, wow, this guy could sell $1 million worth of stuff. I don't think we ever did, but this guy could sell $1 million worth of stuff for me. I'm going to tell him about what's most important to me. And then that sort of set the stage. So we knew what they wanted. And then eventually it came around to them saying, well, what's important to you? And what are you working on? And if it didn't, you can always say, oh, and may I tell you what I'm working on? But usually the partner will ask, how can I support you? Or what are you working
on? Nice. Well, those are some great tips. And this has all been great tips. So this is definitely one of those episodes where I'm going to go back and re-listen to the recording. The funny thing about doing an interview is you hear all this great stuff, then you go back and listen to it, and you're like, I swear I didn't hear that the first time through, because you're thinking about, what questions am I going to ask and all the interview stuff. So it's always good to listen back to my interviews. And for those of you out in listener land who are like, I don't know if I should start a podcast, it's a great way to meet with fantastic people and learn from them, and have it recorded. Because otherwise you're on a Zoom call, you're like, what did he say? What did he say? I've got a recording. So it's fantastic. So thank you very much. And thank you for sharing all of this. This has been many, many nuggets of gold, as they say. So if people want to learn more about you or connect, what's the best way for them to do that?
No, thanks, Michael. Yeah. So simply the website, fastrevenuecoaching.com. That's the name of my program, but that'll take you to a free report and give you the option for the webinar. But fastrevenuecoaching.com is where you can learn more about that laser coaching model and how to make it work in your business.
Great. Well, thank you so much. That's fastrevenuecoaching.com. And I'm looking at it right here on my other screen. Breaking eye contact to look at it, but there's a report right there and all this stuff about the laser coaching model, which, as I said, I've heard about it so much. I heard about it before we met, out there in the world. So you get to be one of those famous coaches, Rob.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. I tried being known for other things. It didn't really work, but this one stuck. So that's cool.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Michael. It was great being here. Thanks, everybody, for listening.